It's all about marriage and intimacy. Joining me this morning is Sheila Wachira. She's a marriage and relationships counselor, also a columnist for the Eve Woman in the Standard newspaper. You recently penned down, and good morning and welcome.
Good morning to Sophie.
You recently penned an article about Between the Sheets.
Yes.
What is it you are writing about, and what was the kind of reaction that you received from that?
Probably first I would tell you who is Sheila.
Yeah.
Sheila is a marriage and relationship counselor.
Yeah.
And as you said, I'm a columnist with Eve magazine for Standard. Married, mother, student. My plate is full. You talked about the Between the Sheets. That has been a column I've been writing on in my articles on Between the Sheets. As it is sound, between the sheet means what happens between the sheet. That's exactly what I mean. What happens between the sheet, that is intimacy. It's all about intimacy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for marriage, usually it's assumed that it should be something that is working, since everyone coming into the party knows it does.
Yeah.
But being a marriage counselor, and you've talked to and interacted with very many with many couples, what is it that comes out? What are the challenges when talking intimacy in marriage?
Challenges are many. And these challenges are mostly, if we are to talk about already in marriage, you call them marriage stressors. And in marriage, as we said, two people coming together, you know, we have two adults. I've been lived maybe 20 years before, and another one 25 years. Then you bring these two heads together. Definitely, you have to have what we call for the teething problems, where by the time the two of you come to in agreement of actually this is the way forward, you definitely have what we call the conflict in between. But if the intimacy is actually the key thing in marriage, and for your marriage, for the marriage to last, intimacy it's a key thing in marriage. Yeah.
So the challenges come in how and what are they? Because is it you're talking that one party is interested, the other one is not, conflict of when this happens or what? And we'll get into even the aspect of what gets people to cheat, because a lot of time it's assumed it's simply lack of intimacy in the family or marriage to outside to seek it elsewhere. So what are this when we're talking about intimacy, is it just that lack of being on the same page?
Mostly it happens when we bring what we call, I say it's a big animal called familiarity in marriage. You know, when you are in courtship, the two of you are both fired up for this thing to work out. I'm looking forward for this marriage. Wait until you get into it. I want to make you laugh, because sometimes I know when I'm doing my premarital counseling classes, I urge them, please don't have intimacy before you get into marriage. Please don't. I actually beg with them. When they're in marriage, actually,
so you advocate for abstinence?
For sure. I actually did an article on that for one of my articles. And what happens now when they're in marriage, now they come to me and they're like, please, now I don't want to have it. And I'm like, please do it. You get the point? And then what happens is the familiarity which comes in. I mean, one stops doing what they used to do most. I used to be very keen on hygiene. I stopped doing that. If it's man, I used to bring gift for my wife. I stopped doing it. We become familiar of each other. I used to call her one on every now and then, but now I stop. Why? I achieved. They say they conquered.
Yeah.
And now here I am. So why should I keep on following her up anyway? So we can stay. And now what happens without them knowing? The romance, it's over, and the intimacy no longer there. And
we'll talk more about the aspects of familiarity, because you hear men complaining she just wears this sengenge t-shirt and a stocking in the head, and it's nothing that's attractive that's being brought to the table. But let me take it back to what you've mentioned on abstinence, because then are you saying that those who abstain are assured after marriage of a happy, intimate life, that there will not be any challenges? Because then that is what I'm hearing from you.
Actually, Sophie, marriage, it's everyone's hope to have the best marriage in the world. But as I said earlier, these are two people, adults, who have come together. This is how I view my world. This is the way you view your world. Now we have come together here, and for it to work, we have to go through conflict management. by the time we come together. And what we always say is the chances of you not engaging in intimacy before marriage, it works better than the other, because there are reasons where we find that when you engage in sex, there's what I teach. I have a program when I run where it's called I Chose You. I Chose You, it's a relationship triangle, the triangle, where that you start from a friendship perspective, friendship where it now forms the love. Then the other corner, you work towards the marriage. Then now the sex becomes the last thing. But you find that most people want to do the other way around. I want to have intimacy with this gentleman in the view of winning his love, okay? And then to probably to lead to marriage. But what happens, and why we advocate not for the abstinence, is because when we engage in sex, you know what happens? Most times you realize that the relationship will not go to marriage sometimes, because you see, men are wired they are wired to chase. But the moment that one happens, the tendency of the man now thinking, I really want to chase this girl more, it dies because he has achieved.
But also the reverse of that is, okay, you deny these things and until then marriage, and then when he gets his way, the marriage crumbles down because he was pursuing a certain purpose, he's gotten it, and now he's like, okay, she was working too hard, playing hard to get. I guess there are two ways to look at it, but when it boils down to those who say that before now we get into marriage proper, those who will say that if you say abstinence, what about getting into the marriage and finding a disaster in terms of just a bad intimate life, and they'll insist on that test drive. You say no, just go there and work it out, whatever you find.
Good. That's why we have what we call courtship, because you get it's very hard for someone to, like, let's say, pretend for a long period of time. Sophie, believe me not, when in courtship, I will know when, like, how does Sophie react when pushed to the edge. I always advocate, don't have less than 6 months knowing someone in courtship, because most people just say, right now I think I need to get into marriage because I think I've just hit 28, and when they say after this I might.
And in this courtship, is there intimacy?
No.
Okay.
Yes, because, and again, that's why I said, when I talk about now intimacy in this, we have men who want to get to you because sometimes you have to know, are they out of lust? Are they the real love? And when a man wants to and have sex, they would, by the way, she can even have it to another person. And so the courtship will be able to develop and see exactly which kind of a person am I going to be in, and how they react to you, because there is a kind of a quality you're looking for when you're looking for a spouse. And if they cannot meet your qualities, definitely don't have to get into it. Okay. You'll definitely be able to tell a person within the courtship. That's why we talk about the courtship period.
I think that will be a whole different discussion, but let's go into marriage. So honeymoon period, everyone talks about it. It's lovely, it's happy, everyone is excited. And then life and its pressures and its challenges and ups and downs weigh in. And you're talking about the place of just being laxity. And when there's not much effort being put in place. So what is it you tell couples, you tell women, so that you have your A game, I guess, every other day, and for the men as well?
That's what I talked about. I don't want people to have the familiarity in marriage.
So what is it do you do to ensure you don't have that familiarity?
Keep to what made you this man get attracted to you.
Okay.
The same to the woman, both vice versa. If this guy saw this girl, the kind of a career woman she was, very decent, very good, respectful, all sort of things, supportive, words of affirmations to the husband. The same with the woman, the man.
But now that will contradict what you said earlier, because there's no intimacy. We are focusing on intimacy.
Yes.
So since you advocate for abstinence before marriage,
yes,
and now they've gotten into marriage situation, and you said to stick to what they were doing. They were not doing it before. So now what happens? What keeps it alive and good in marriage?
Now in marriage, you see, as I talked about, because in courtship, as we said, we actually talks about the issue of intimacy should not come in. That's my point.
Which is debatable. That is your position.
That is true. It's actually debatable.
Yes.
Now, when we get into marriage, for me to be able to be able to sustain, if this man, that's what I talk about, if this man found me very attractive, very, very clean, very all, what he saw in me, what attracted him, what attracted me to him, we should be able to fight to make sure that that one is retained. Okay? So, and even if now, because now we get into marriage, then there is intimacy. But we didn't have intimacy in the courtship, as I said before. Okay? So now when you get into marriage, you talk about the intimacy. Now for me to be able now, if now intimacy has already come in the picture, now for it to be, for us to retain the intimacy, then we need to make sure that at least I'm continue being the person that the person so. And I need to be able to, if it was about the respect that he used to get, he has to continue even get the same.
So you're saying these extra factors, respect and all these are the ones which were into intimacy. So intimacy in and of itself, there is nothing that one needs to work on to keep it happy.
Okay, I really want to get back. I think I've not lost you.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say is, for intimacy to happen, as I said, I married a friend. You married me as your friend, okay? And if intimacy has been happening, because it definitely has to happen in marriage. If it is not happening, then you have a problem in this. If it is happening, how do we make sure that it is retained?
And so you say it's by continuing to the respect,
exactly,
those positive qualities.
Yes, and we stop having the familiarity in marriage. Because again, if I get familiar with you, I start having my headaches. When it comes to intimacy, I have headaches. What
happens when it gets boring? Intimacy. It's the same old. It gets
boring. There are so many ways of rekindling the fire.
How do you do that?
You do it by going out, change the. Sometimes, you know, we have the change of approach of approaching to issues. You know, baby, probably you are used to coming in and just like bump on. So what happened with the bills? What did you know? Just change the approach. You know, it will really be good. Then at least take holiday out. Have some dinners, early breakfast in town. Don't discuss issues within the same environment. Let's look for a conducive environment where we can go out and discuss our issues. You know, and when we go out to discuss our issues, it is not about accusing the finger. You know, you used to do that. Nowadays, you don't do. Then again, we are not really helping it out. There are materials to read, Sophie, on marriage. There are movies to watch on marriage. But I don't have to go for the secular world. There are so many things you can be able to do to make sure that you retain your intimacy. You don't have to say, now it's boring. I've been with this woman every day. I wake up in the morning, she's the one. Because we're not going to change the spouse that you married into. This is good to, we say, for better, for worse.
What about those who disagree on the number of times there should be intimacy per week, so, roughly? I'm not saying you give us a number. All I'm asking is those who, there are men who every day, women were like, hey.
Yeah, but then again, now that's again we come about with understanding. People forget that by the intimacy, it should not be like a program. Tomorrow, Wednesday and Friday, but then Saturday, because we have, it will not, we should not, it should be natural. Let me tell you, for men, they are moved by what they see, okay? For the women, it is a touch. Now, if these ones are happening, it will be naturally coming in. You don't have to tell me about, but then today we will be planning at it. You don't have to, unless you want to surprise.
Because some men will argue that's important because the woman is never in that state of mind. Every time he try, okay, prepare her.
Thank you. Because you see, to me, I tell people, men will come complaining, my wife no longer, I mean, I'm starved, but the reason could be you. Do you spend time calling this woman? Okay, well, I will go back again. Familiarity comes in. What did you used to do to this woman? What was happening at that specific time that she used to really actually give herself in? Because again, what happens with the men sometimes, not all, sometimes even us women sometimes, when a man used to do all these things for the woman, you would buy her a gift, you would come home early, you would take a walk with her in the estate. You don't have necessarily to have money to take her to Dubai. Personally, I love Dubai, but you don't have to take her out there if there's no money. Take her for a walk. Recognize that she's a woman, not the way they say mama wa kwangu. I mean, recognize she's still the beautiful that woman that you found. And that one, when you turn on a woman, let me tell you something, the saying which he says, when a mama is happy, even the cat in the house, it's happy.
Everyone is happy.
Is happy. Now, if that woman, you make her happy, and what makes a woman happy? Just knowing that, just appreciating her, that you are still there. Don't tell her you become now another one. Now, when I married you, you are, now look at you, you have become size 50. Now, already you demoralize the woman.
What about the place of experiments? There are people who will come in and want to do things differently, and the other spouse, you know, they was done a certain way, and the other spouse will be like, "Hey, where are you learning this from? I don't want," and it creates this, you know, bad vibe between the two. So should there be do you have a conversation like, "Oh, I'm thinking," and then how do you explain where did you even know about this new stuff?
Exactly. I remember there's a lady who came complaining about the husband really has no intimacy, and I remember telling her, I actually showed her where to buy the nice night dress, you know, those ones. And the day she won, the guy is like, "Look what have you started? Now where have you been seeing these things? You get the point? Now, to me, I want to advise and I want to educate our men out there. Please, if you're listening to me, I want to really advise you. Read books, look for materials. When a woman wants to surprise you, it's none of your business where she's getting it from. She wants to rekindle your fire. She wants this marriage working. And every time you look for anything that I can eyes my marriage, because that is my work. For the men, there are men who don't even read the books. Then you have been having the same thing, the same mentality you had when you married this woman 30 years ago. You still have the same, you don't even have creativity. Even in the place of work. Sophie, if you are still seated in the same dress you wore the day you came in, surely it even get to a point it can't fit you anymore, or it get out of fashion. So we keep on reading books for men. We keep on talking. Women, we are relational, so we will keep on talking to other women. By the way, how do you make your husband, how are you able to maintain a relationship? So you tell you, by the way, this is how I dress, as we talked about earlier, the singing t-shirt and all that.
The stocking on the head.
Exactly. How come they don't, now they still complain when you wear the stockings, okay? So look at how you look like. Now when you go to the bedroom matters, then when you wear this, like now, who's showing you how to wear these transparent dresses? Now you see, these men also need to learn. Let them not just sit down there and watch, because the way we are going, things are moving fast, and we have to move fast. This is digital. We can't remain the way our women were using to have the rest of the throughout the house. You can't see the woman, even her legs, you can't see anywhere. She has covered herself everywhere. You know, and when you're playing,
there needs to be creativity, there needs to be introduction of new elements to the intimacy to keep it
exactly
going.
And one-on-one, make sure that you go out there. When you go out for holiday, what do you discuss about? You don't discuss about the children. Yesterday the feast was not, by there I'm not like the school teacher is treating my children. They think for everything. When you plan out, it's for you and your husband. It's like, honey, I like when you buy this kind of a thing. Honey, I like this. But what would I do if I was to buy this? How would you? You know, those are the things that you discuss about, and those are the things which normally entice your marriage. But again, when you sit in the same position that you are, and the same place that you have been, I'm telling you, everything get bored. There's no way you move. You have to have creativity, surely. Get out of there and read more books. Read more books. What is happening in the world? How do I handle this? There are people who get into marriage and they don't understand what it is about. They go back to their parent. And it is a very bad thing. Why? They don't read the books. They don't do anything.
How do you rank intimacy in marriage? How important is it? Of course,
Very
marriage
important.
has very many aspects. Very important?
If there is no intimacy, you will not face the giant out there. Let me tell you something. When intimacy is happening, I'm telling you, you will have... When intimacy is happening,
yes,
I'm telling you that any other issues is resolved in a very good way. When intimacy is not happening, Sophie, believe me, not. It's like the way we talk about operations in an office. If operations is bad, everything else goes wrong. So if intimacy is happening, any other issue which is out there, which looks like a giant, it is solved. Because that is where you discuss everything. Between the sheet, as I said back again,
yes,
between sheet, that's where everything happens. And that's the time you can tell the man, by the way, ABCD, I was thinking of a certain project. Yes, I think we can go for it. He will sign for you the order. And all these things, I'm telling you, is that don't ever forget about intimacy is a key in a relationship.
You know, for some couples, as the body changes and several changes come along, insecurities will creep up.
Yes.
And even as small things as light being on and off becomes an issue of discussion,
yes,
and a real big problem,
yes,
for many. What do you advise people in such a situation?
In courtship, again, I take back to the premarital. In the courtship that we teach them, when they come for my program, I teach them about, let me tell you, there are things that you expect to change once you cross over the other side. This kind of size 8 girl you have married, when the children come to the picture, definitely somehow, 80% of the women, they expand. And that one is expected to happen. We ask the man, will you still love her? If he has gitchy thing, then I tell the woman, think twice. The same case with a woman. I always tell people, this man you have married might be 6-pack. The day the life will come and change, he might have only 1-pack. Will you leave this guy? I mean, it's not about that.
So there should be that room to accept.
The room. It should be there. And by the time when they're getting to marriage, already they are aware that for sure this woman at a point she will change. But again, also does not mean now because he already knew, it's like, no, you need to take care of yourself even after getting children. Don't just sit there and say, now nirifika. I mean, it does not really make sense. We need to keep ourselves how we were from the
Finally, and briefly, you talked about toys in your article in Marriage
Yes.
and Intimacy.
Yes.
That is something you recommend?
I talked about toys being not coming to the picture. Remember, in my article, I spoke about sex toys because people have decided now, it's like, by the way, men have become so busy nowadays. I think even I can't get, even if I got him, we don't have
chemistry.
Exactly. So what I need, I go for the sex toys. Those are gadgets. Let me tell you, do you have
kill the intimacy?
Do you have any relationship with a gadget? Can you talk to the gadget? Can it tell you anything? Okay, today it's not good. Can the gadget encourage you? Emotionally support, does the gadget give you? It will give you the physical, what you are looking for, but only short-lived.
So for you, finally, it is to tell the married couples to put in more effort?
Please, be creative. Don't just sit. Just do something. Research on marriage. Research on how to make sure that you are in the picture. Okay. Don't just sit there and wait.
All right. Yeah. Well said. Thank you very much. Sheila Wachira, marriage and relationship counselor, also a columnist with Eve Woman, with us this morning on Marriage and Intimacy. Thank you for being with us.